Samantha had always dreamed of living in the heart of the city. When she found a charming, albeit slightly worn-down, apartment at a surprisingly good price, she jumped at the opportunity. The building had an old-world charm, with creaky wooden floors and vintage wallpaper that whispered stories of the past. As she unpacked boxes, she felt a mix of excitement and trepidation, wondering what secrets her new home might hold. The first night in her new apartment was filled with the sounds of the city: honking cars, distant laughter, and the occasional siren. It was a comforting cacophony, but as Samantha settled into bed, she couldn't shake a strange feeling that something was watching her. Dismissing it as first-night jitters, she drifted off to sleep. The next morning, Samantha made her way to the bathroom. It was small, with a slightly cracked mirror that she immediately felt drawn to. As she brushed her teeth, she glanced up and noticed her reflection looking back at her, not just mirroring her movements, but something about it seemed off. It was a split second, but she could have sworn her reflection smirked before returning to its usual blankness. Shrugging it off as imagination, she went about her day, but the encounter lingered in her mind. As days turned into weeks, she began to notice more strange occurrences. The reflection sometimes lingered a fraction of a second longer than she did, or seemed to tilt its head slightly, as if it were studying her. One evening, after a long day at work, Samantha stood in front of the mirror applying her makeup. As she brushed her eyeliner, her reflection's movements became erratic. It started mimicking her perfectly, but then it began to do things she wasn't doing, raising an eyebrow, smirking, even sticking out its tongue. Samantha dropped her eyeliner in shock and took a step back, but the reflection continued its antics, almost mocking her. Panicking, she turned away, trying to convince herself it was just stress. But as the days went by, the strange behavior escalated. One night, after a particularly harrowing day, she stood in front of the mirror and cried. Her reflection, however, wore a twisted smile, its eyes gleaming with malice. "What do you want from me?" she whispered, feeling utterly alone. The reflection's smile faded, replaced by a cold, calculating gaze that sent chills down her spine. Desperate for answers, Samantha began researching the history of the apartment and the building. She discovered that decades ago, a woman named Eliza had lived there, known for her beauty and charm. However, after her sudden disappearance, the apartment had gained a reputation for being haunted. Locals whispered of strange occurrences and a lingering presence. Samantha's heart raced as she pieced together the clues. Could her reflection be connected to Eliza? The more she delved into the history, the more the reflection's actions began to make sense. Eliza had been known to obsess over her appearance, often using the mirror as a portal into her own twisted desires. As Samantha grew more terrified, the reflection became increasingly bold. It began to whisper to her, seductive and dark. "Let me in," it cooed, voice echoing softly in the confined bathroom. "You'll be happier, free of this mundane life." One night, unable to sleep, she stood before the mirror, entranced by the reflection that now wore Eliza's likeness. "You can't have my life," Samantha murmured, trembling. But the reflection simply smiled, its eyes gleaming with a hunger that made her heart race. "I don't want your life, Samantha," it replied, its voice low and honeyed. "I want your body. Just one little switch, and we'll both get what we desire." Samantha tried to fight back, but each time she turned away, the whispers grew louder, drowning out her thoughts. She began to lose track of time, feeling drawn to the bathroom at odd hours, the mirror beckoning her. Friends noticed her changing demeanor, her increasing fatigue, and her growing obsession with her appearance. One day, while getting ready for work, Samantha hesitated before the mirror. "If you're so beautiful, why are you trapped in there?" she demanded, her voice shaking. The reflection grinned wider, a wicked gleam in its eyes. "Because I need you, Samantha. I need your flesh, your life. In exchange, I'll give you everything you've ever wanted." Samantha recoiled, but the allure was undeniable. She started to entertain the idea, wondering if perhaps swapping places wouldn't be so bad. After all, her life was filled with mundane routines and disappointments. Eliza's life seemed glamorous, vibrant. One fateful night, Samantha stood before the mirror, the air thick with anticipation. The reflection looked more vibrant than ever, its features glowing as if illuminated from within. "Tonight is the night," it said softly. "Just reach out." Trembling, Samantha hesitated. "What if I refuse?" The reflection's smile faltered, and its eyes darkened. "Then you will be trapped here, watching me live your life. You will never escape." In that moment, fear overwhelmed her. She grabbed a nearby candle, its flame flickering wildly, and thrust it toward the mirror. "Get away from me," she screamed. To her horror, the flame flickered out, leaving only darkness. The reflection laughed, a chilling sound that echoed in the bathroom. "You can't escape your fate, Samantha. You belong to me." Determined not to surrender, Samantha began gathering items from the apartment, anything that might help her fight back. She found a silver locket that once belonged to her grandmother, believed to ward off evil spirits. Armed with the locket, she faced the mirror one last time. "I won't let you take my life," she shouted, holding the locket tightly. The reflection's expression twisted in rage. "You think a trinket can save you? You're mine." As Samantha pressed the locket against the mirror, a blinding light filled the bathroom, illuminating every dark corner. The reflection screamed, a sound that pierced her ears, but Samantha stood her ground, her heart racing. "Leave me alone," she cried, and with one final push, she shattered the mirror with the locket. Glass exploded everywhere, and the air filled with a deafening silence. Samantha collapsed to the floor, heart pounding in her chest. The darkness lifted, and as she looked around, she saw the remnants of the shattered mirror glimmering like stars. She felt lighter, freer, as if a weight had been lifted from her soul. But as she gathered herself, she noticed one piece of the mirror remained intact, still reflecting her image. And in that reflection, for just a moment, she saw Eliza's face, fury and despair etched across it. Realizing the battle was not over, Samantha turned her back on the mirror and vowed to reclaim her life. She packed her belongings and left the apartment, the echoes of the past following her, but no longer holding her captive. Months later, in a new city and a new apartment, Samantha felt a sense of peace. She had learned to embrace her identity, letting go of the fear that had once consumed her. Yet, on quiet nights, she found herself avoiding mirrors, the memories still fresh in her mind. One evening, while unpacking, she came across the silver locket. As she held it in her hand, she felt a cold breeze whispering through the room, sending chills down her spine. With determination, she placed the locket in a drawer, locking away the past. But just before she closed it, she caught a glimpse of her reflection in a nearby window. For a fleeting moment, she swore she saw Eliza's smile, twisted and triumphant. The connection remained, a haunting reminder that the darkness of the mirror still lingered, waiting for a moment of weakness. Samantha took a deep breath, standing tall as she faced the window. "You will never have me," she said firmly, knowing the battle might continue, but she was ready to fight. As she turned away, a shadow flitted across the glass, and the wind whispered a name, Samantha,